Yeah, it ends the thing off, and you're just sitting there scratching your head for the last 2 minutes of the movie, going, and then what? But if he did that, then he did the. How did he? Then what? Huh? You know. It's like the meme of the preacher that he goes, why? That's my brain was doing that the whole time. All right.
If you're 9 years old, this is a horror movie.
I just don't think Bill Nye was as cracked up as people thought he was.
The ultimate weight of the flick as a suspenser is null.
What do they have to do with each other?
I'm trying to find the connection. I don't know.
Guess what? It's Scooby-Doo.
This is Scooby-Doo.
What does the circus have to do with anything?
Why?
And they just blew it off in the matter of 2 seconds.
Why?
What was all of this for, even? That's the only...
You're not telling anyone about what has happened.
But like, they just blew off every conflict they could ever have.
Cinematic fantastic.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today. Hey there, listeners. It's Cinematic Fantastic back again. We are on episode 29, the 9th episode of season 2.
And we are almost halfway through our second ever season.
Wow. I mean, hooray and stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm excited. I like moving forward. I like talking about new things with you.
And a new decade as well.
Oh, yeah. The 40s, I think with the 40s we're going to do for at least a couple seasons. There's quite a few movies in there, I think.
I know, but we've never been to the 40s before, and now we are.
Now we are. It's a millstone.
It's a new decade ahead of us. We've crossed the barrier.
It's definitely a millstone. If you remember our Old Dark House episode, you'll understand that joke. All right, so this movie...
What is this movie?
Is that really what it is, or is it a pilot for a failed series that's really weird? Okay, it's an anthology series all about primates. No, I'm kidding. It's a movie called The Ape. It comes out in 1940 from Monogram Pictures. It's starring Boris Karloff, which is probably the only reason why we're talking about it. I didn't know. I thought this movie was going to be different. But it is different, but I thought it was going to be different than what it was.
Whoever is listening to this, who is watching the movie, it probably sees the word Monarch Pictures on their cover and goes like, wait, you said it was Monogram. They just changed their name.
Yeah, well, that's not the only time.
And then we're gonna refer to it by the name on the Wikipedia, which is Monogram.
Which is Monogram, Now, here's the thing, too. You talked about name change. We can talk about as we go talk about Monogram, but I think they changed their name a couple times as they changed owners and decided to recapitalize on different things and try this and try that.
For those catching us new, last episode, we covered Son of Frankenstein.
It was good.
Completing the Frankenstein trilogy with the third title. Now that I think about it, the trilogy sort of went down like the Silent Hill trilogy.
Really? Okay, do tell.
Yeah, it's perfect. You've got the solid start that's still remembered.
Right.
It had a bit of a pile of issues keeping it from ultimate greatness.
Okay.
The voice acting is jank, I hear. Also, the story makes no sense.
Okay.
Those are the two things. You've got the highly praised and iconic sequel that went more psychological than horrific. Definitely that. The third entry that introduced cool new elements and ideas, but was less iconic as a whole. That is check in my book. Disclaimer: this is an outsider's take. I don't know everything. I'm probably completely wrong. This is probably a hot take.
It's interesting the way you're putting that.
But yeah, actually, most trilogies usually end up like this. There's the sequel, or there's the first movie that sort of sets a baseline, and it's pretty good. The second one usually ends up a lot better in some eyes, and then the third one is sort of lesser than the both of them.
Yeah, I mean that's not always the case, but there are some series where I could point to specifically the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. The second Spider-Man movie is actually pointed to as being the best of the three. The same thing with the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight series, or the Nolan-verse Batman series. The Dark Knight is generally pointed to as being the best of the three, the middle one. So your mileage may vary. I mean, because if we look at the Amazing Spider-Man 2, you know, the Andrew Garfield movies, some people say
there was never a third one, though.
I know, but people say that one sucked. So it's not always, the sequel sometimes tries to be bigger than the first one and do more and plays more on some of the some elements that were started with it. And the third one just kind of, you know, is trying to play, you know, kind of sum it up. But yeah, I would definitely agree on that.
Yeah, so that's just putting a capper on our last episode. That was basically what we did.
Yeah.
So, Father, you want to get started then?
I'm on your dime. You are the captain of this fair vessel. You're going to take us where we need to go. And I honestly, I'll sit over there in the science position on the starship. I'll sit in the science position, and if I see something interesting or whatever, I'll say, Captain, there's a anomaly on the port bow, something like that. I'll just point out a cool little nifty fact, or I'll just be the guy that comments on stuff and says that was really weird, Captain. So you steer the ship, you navigate, and you tell me.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be like a part where it's like you're like introducing the Grand Vizier, and then there's all the fanfares and stuff. And then the camera pans down, and there's a tiny little man.
Right.
So, to start off, this movie was directed by Will Nye, the science guy. I had to say, his name is literally Bill Nye. How on earth did such a coincidence happen? So I was like, I just realized this as like a Will Nye, the science guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably put all the theme song up here.
Yes.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Now you're never going to get it out of your head. It's just going to be there forever.
It's going to be there forever.
Will Nye, the director guy.
But to recap him, this dude made an alright name for himself. He did some stuff with RoccoW and stuff, but he was the type of guy to do stuff with producers Releasing Corp. We talked about them earlier. They were the bottom of the barrel of the Poverty Row companies.
Are they Poverty Row? Yeah. I was going to ask.
Infamously so.
Yeah.
And he hanged around the Poverty Row space, which was where Monarch, to be Monogram, were at the time, and were for the rest of their days. They're a Poverty Row company.
B-movie cheapies.
Producers Releasing Corp was the bottom of the barrel for any person to go, really. They made really cheap, and it said they never spent more than $1,000 on a picture.
Well, there was one movie they actually got up to like 9,000, or didn't it? I don't know what the average was, but they did have budgets much less than the major studios. B- pictures, like B pictures would be putting it lightly. B- pictures, but they put out a lot. Did you see how many movies they put out?
Yeah, and I mean, even Monogram, or Monarch as it was then, I'll just
call them Monogram, yeah.
We're going to call it Monogram from here henceforth.
There you go.
So you know.
Yeah.
They also put out quite a bit of movies. Like, every like, day or two, I was looking, and it's like there was a movie coming out. Like, man, was it packed.
They were churning them out, and they had...
But he did work with them. And with a lot of the stuff that they did, so he was heavily in that space of Poverty Row with them and producers Releasing Corp. So let's talk a bit more about Monogram Pictures. I want to say a bit about what they were about.
Yeah.
Now Monogram, they made their bread and butter on Lone Star Westerns, serials, and suspense dramas. That's what I get from them.
Yeah.
These were also the people who did Charlie Chan. Sadly, it's not the one with Warner Oland. I think he, died or something, and then Monogram picked it up after 20th Century Fox stopped producing them, but it's not the ones with Warner Oland. The 20th Century Fox dumped those, onto them, after they didn't want to do them anymore. And Detective Wong, a Chinese-American detective similar to him, and he was played by Boris Karloff, which is where Boris and Will Nye, the science guy, got paired up together for this movie. Yes, Boris Karloff is in this one.
And I would tell you this, the only reason, I'd say one of the, I guess the only reasons why Boris Karloff did The Ape is it was the last of his 6-picture contract with Monogram. His other films were all in the Mr. Wong Detective.
Yeah, he literally just did those, and then that's where Will Nye the Science Guy. He went, oh, I've already lured him in deep enough. Let's make one more movie and then itch him out.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wong Detective in 1938, The Mystery of Mr. Wong, 1939, Mr. Wong in Chinatown, 1939, again, same year. 1940, you got The Fatal Hour, which is a Mr. Wong movie, Doomed to Die, which is a Mr. Wong movie, and The Ape. So, and also, hey, by the way, William, in doing research for this podcast episode, you can go on YouTube and find all the Mr. Wong movies, which I actually put in a playlist. I'm going to, somebody nicely put them in a playlist for me. I'm going to watch them one of these days just to see how jank they are and how racist they can get.
I'd be looking forward to watching those with you too.
Yeah, maybe so.
But yeah, these were the offensive Chinese-American detective stories that they picked up.
Yeah,
from other
but why can they be on YouTube without trouble? I'll tell you one little tidbit. Almost all the movies from, I'd say, early 40s on back with Monogram are now public domain.
Yeah, most of it's 30s stuff.
Yeah,
it's all public domain.
It's because of something they did with the copyrights or whatever. Something they didn't do right, or the rights that they had, they sold away at some point.
Or they just didn't even have any money to pay for the rights.
Right, exactly. So, we get to watch some of those for free.
Yeah, but I'll talk about how their finances went a bit now.
Yeah.
So, again, these Monogram were also the people who did Bomba the Jungle Boy, starring Johnny Sheffield, who played Boy from the Tarzan the Ape Man series. You definitely know about that if you've seen the Tarzan the Ape Man series episode.
Is that the little boy with Johnny Weissmuller? He's like the young...
Yes, and he was in Bomba the Jungle Boy, and we talked about it. These were the people who did it.
Yeah, it's a spinoff. It's not really a spinoff of Tarzan, but they're playing off of that white person in the jungle in a loincloth. That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and a bit of a King of the Flies influence.
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Why now? Why?
I was like, it surely
Yeah.
can't be King of the Flies.
No. Why is it a Lord of the Flies influence? Is it because the two main leads,
Well, it's because I just made that comparison just now because I was like, they're both about a young boy who finds himself on an island with absolutely nothing. Although then he's in a group.
He wasn't
in Lord of the
raised.
Flies.
He wasn't raised by apes or anything, right?
I think he was. I'm just saying there's a comparison to have this. It's the appeal of a young character making for himself in the middle of an island.
Yeah. I get that. It's probably a
And,
loose kind of connection you could have there.
As in Lord of the Flies, it sort of gets creepy, and I think they start murdering each other.
Yeah, which is not what happens in Bomba. I'm sure he befriends
Bomba the
Jungle Boy.
Bomba the Jungle Boy, he's so wholesome. And then the music starts playing.
Is that what you want the theme song to be? I didn't know it.
No.
That'd be nice. I wonder if the Bomba movies are on, See, it's funny that we're talking about Mr. Wong and Bomba because this movie was so unsatisfying to me that I'm willing to bite on anything that you're talking about. Bomba,
Yeah,
wow.
but let me talk about their
Okay.
fate for a minute.
Yeah.
Basically, their fate was they would merge into Allied Artists Incorporated in the 50s, who did Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
which we will watch. Yeah, and
they did that.
That's actually a good
as
movie. That's actually
merged company, and that's a bit surprising that they merged into this bigger company. I think they were gonna try and merge into Republic Pictures, but it didn't work out.
I think the reason why they have Allied Artists is because it sounds like United Artists, which was legit. So they figured if their name sounded legit, like another company, then they'd be taken seriously and they could get bigger projects.
Yeah, but then they go bankrupt in 79, and that would be their end. Their movie library would eventually go to MGM through way of United Artists. They'd pick them up. Ha ha, funny. We just talked about that. Most everything after 45 went to Warner Brothers, and a smattering of the earlier stuff got to Paramount through a long chain of events.
One of the chain of events was Lorimar Productions, they do a lot of television stuff. They bought out a lot of the rights to that stuff, and then I think Paramount bought Lorimar.
Yes.
I think that's right.
That was somewhat recent. I think that was 96, I believe. They bought that.
Yeah.
So again, as we've been talking about, Boris Karloff had previously worked at Monogram Pictures, being Detective Wong, based off of Hugh Wiley's story, published in Collier's magazine. He appeared in 5 films as character within 2 years. He got really tight with them, and that's where that's why the ape really happened with him. It was a Christmas miracle. So after the success of Son of Frankenstein, a guy named Key Luke took over for Karloff as the detective in Phantom of Chinatown, 1940, while Karloff was cast in this movie. And this would be the last movie in his 6-movie contract.
Yeah,
Man, it was blown quick.
Key Luke is a very important Asian actor. You see him, I think. Oh wait, does he play like the old man in Gremlins? I think that gives the Mogwai to keep going, and I will give you an idea of some of the things that Key Luke has done. I remember it, but
yeah, the contract was blown very quick. They're just like, make a series with us, and then one more movie, and then we're dead with you. But it was a miracle they could even get him at all. That was their marketing strategy for this movie, is we have Boris Karloff, guys. Come on in. And then everyone came in because it's Boris Karloff. What are you going to do about that? So they hired the screenwriter and scriptwriter. His name is Kurt Sudmak. Do not be intimidated by the O with a slash with it, by the way. I think it's is how it's pronounced, so it's Sudmak.
Okay. I'm going to try to pronounce that Sudmak, yeah.
Yeah, so they hired Kurt Sudmak in July 1940, and another guy, Rich Carroll, came along later. He was another writer, I guess. The gist of that is that The Ape was based on the play by the same title by Adam Hole-Shirk. I almost said Shrek. That would be funny.
Right.
Except they pulled a Dracula's Daughter here, and the movie is absolutely nothing like the play at all. They pulled a Dracula's Daughter with this one and been like, hey guys, we based it off something cool, and then it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah, the play seems to be more like the old Dark House, but with voodoo, like Indian curses and that stuff. It has a movie adaptation called The House of Mystery, and that's why it's called that, is because it's about a house of mystery, voodoo, and a gorilla.
I was right. Key Luke did play the grandfather that sells the Mogwai in Gremlins. He's also in some movies we're going to do. He's actually the English narrator of Rodan, the English version. Also, the American version of Godzilla Raids Again, which is called Gigantus the Fire Monster. Whatever.
Yeah, but Gremlins was an American-produced movie, right?
It was, yes.
So he probably moved to America at some point.
No.
They commissioned him away.
He was in a lot of the Jackie Chan movies as Lee Chan. So that's probably why they pulled him into the Mr. Wong thing, because he had the face.
No, I mean into the Gremlins.
No. Well, yeah, he's been in America for a long time. He's Chinese American. He's lived here for quite a while. Gremlins was in 1980s.
Oh, so he pulled himself to Japan and China for his roles in Jackie Chan and stuff.
No, not Jackie Chan. Lee Chan.
Now in Godzilla stuff.
Charlie Chan. Well, for a lot of the stuff in America, what they would do is they would have Americanized versions of Chinese and Japanese movies, and they would have.
And that's where he'd hop in, being a
voiceover,
excellent lookalike.
Voiceover. He did voiceover stuff.
That makes more sense.
Because his voice is English, but he has a Chinese accent to his voice, and so that lends it a little bit more credibility when you're doing the voice of the dub over voice. For the characters. But he did a lot of stuff in serials and things like that, playing Chinese and Japanese characters. Probably not always respectful characters, but he played them well no matter what he did.
And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
That I agree. But why did they pull a Dracula's Daughter here? Well, Sudmak's motto, as he said in an interview, is he said, whether it was the ape, the climax, 1944, or I walked with a zombie, 1943.
Yeah.
I never used the original material. I used my own stories. So basically, he uses his own stories. He literally, that's his motto, is I'm going to make a movie. It's going to be about what I wrote. Regardless of what it's based off of, we're just gonna say it's based off something, and then I'm just gonna go off my own stories. No anyone else's material.
Yeah, he's coattailing the other material.
But thing is, what if the other person's material is better? He's
Ah,
a better writer than you.
yeah.
What if?
Yeah. Think about that.
Think about that. You could get so much more better ideas from the better minds out there. And plus, if you're sort of mingling your idea space with their idea space, it turns into this unique idea space that makes the movie much more interesting idea-wise, because you're blending things.
Oh, like a mashup. But no, Kurt Sudmak.
Just like this movie.
Kurt Sudmak, his whole thing was he probably thought he was the better storyteller anyway, and he just kind of was like, when you say based on, it lends what you have credibility. You could say, oh, we got this movie, it's based off this other author. Oh, okay, we'll risk as an insurance with the production. We will risk money. We'll risk money on it because it's based off a property. But then people actually cared about things based off of properties today. Back in the day, it was like, oh, it says based upon. It barely lends it credibility, and then you just go with it. But nowadays, people would be like, they get so upset if a character is even slightly different from the IP.
I definitely do agree with that sentiment, though, because especially when you have like Disney and Pixar as well, essentially, they are having to deal with, like, they make the most money off of previously established IPs. And especially since they're making, like, Inside Out 2, they're making, like, Frozen 3, even Toy Story 5, are literally beating that franchise into the dust at this point. Zootopia 2 is on the way. We didn't even need any of that, really. We didn't even really quite need so much. And plus, they're, like, literally, they've resolved to remaster all of their, or remake in the
the live action remakes,
view, the live action remakes, and bring back into the industry a new version of what they would like us to.
You can't have the memories you have of the originals,
like a version of it that they want us to see at that point. That they want to go, oh, look, this is how it always was, nostalgia here, but it's truly not. You have to go back to the classics, especially we are in 1940. That was about when Pinocchio came out, which was one of the famous. That was the second movie that they made, but it's also really great for, when you wish upon a star, no matter who you are. That became their slogan. It became their intro because of how much it spoke for who they were as people. Wishing upon stars is such a relatable thing and speaks to that fantasy. And you know what? They're even making a live-action Moana remake.
I've heard about that.
Something that hasn't even passed, like, a decade. This is still presenter stuff, but because Moana is so popular and it made them tons of money before, they want to do that again. But that all leads into the fact that they like previously established IPs, and the times they tried for unique IPs, such as Strange World. You have all sorts of stuff right here. I mean, Kanto did all right, but it's not like they're gonna do Encanto 2. Don't call me on that. They probably are. Yeah. And actually, speaking of the Disney and stuff, I do think that DreamWorks with their unique IPs are sort of what is good in the limelight, especially for like Puss in Boots. While it's not like a unique IP, it sure did something very unique, and people really like that. There's a new thing. I don't know. It was like Teenage Kraken or something.
What?
It was something Teenage Kraken. The story is the Krakens are basically the good guys, but the mermaids, while being like, oh, how beautiful and so pretty we are. We're good for all the people, but they're actually not. They're evil. Although there's a lot of spoilering in the trailers, it seems. That every plot point seems to be touched on, but we're getting
far afield. So we are going to see some more of these cheapo movies from Monogram. Monogram also had, like I said, had a bunch of different names. One of them was Allied Artists. You remember where they
and as we talked about earlier, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, well, okay. So Invasion of the Body Snatchers was made under Allied Artists, and that actually is a good. I don't even remember that as being a Monogram. I just remember that was really good. So let's see, other ones we'll do very soon would be The Ape Man and Return of the Ape Man. We're really doing lots of ape stuff. Those are under Monogram because they're B- pictures. And then Day of the Triffids was actually released in the UK by rank organization, and in the U.S. by Allied Artists, aka Monogram. See, Allied Artists, doesn't that sound so hoity-toity and up? It's like I said, it's playing off of United Artists. They got the giant behemoth, Indestructible Man, Attack of the Crab Monsters, Not of This World, War of the Satellites, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
All sorts of goodies.
Yeah, very
All sorts of cheesy goodies.
Yeah, all sorts of cheesy,
Varying levels.
crunchy goodness.
But speaking of woman, wanted to talk about Maris Rickson, who I believe was Frances in this movie. Basically, her story was she was on loan to Monogram from Warner Brothers, and Rickson recalls that she received the script for the film 1 or 2 days before shooting. Man, they were like, okay, here you go, speed read it immediately.
That's not that bad. She didn't have tons of lines anyway.
Well, yeah, but still.
She's actually one of the better actors in this, I would say. Everybody else is kind of either phoning it in or wouldn't, except for, I would have to say, Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff still looks like he's like doing math in his head while he's acting in this.
Yeah, she definitely enjoyed being with Boris Karloff and Will Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
She also said that the studio and also Poverty Row Studios, like it, were very frugal and awful careful about what they did. Although, she did say it was like living in a foxhole where she was. She said, she was like, sure, very awful careful about what they do, but, it's a foxhole. It's dirty where I'm living and where I have to stay in between shoots. Because at this point, they don't have the budget.
When you say things about foxhole, it really, in a way, it kind of also plays into that it's a war. So basically, you got people running all over the place. You don't know what's going on. It's kind of chaotic. They're trying to get the picture done.
Well, the U.S. was not in the war till 41, so...
Well, still, people knew what foxhole meant.
Production on The Ape started in August 6, 1940. Keep in mind that this movie came out in September.
Right.
So they started production less than a month before they're even doing it.
So they filmed it. They had time. They had to edit it.
Yeah, they had to film it in California. And while the film was promoted as being a larger budget production for Monogram, the circus footage in the film was indeed stolen footage from another film.
I knew it.
And they did indeed repeat shots of Dr. Adrian leaving and entering his house. So, yeah, we were talking about it while watching this. We were like, I swear they were repeating a shot.
Did you see that cut?
What was that stroll? He's just like straight back, just little tiny stroll, just la-da-da.
These people have never seen an ape move around, have they?
Dad said that, and he also said, like, I swear that the circus footage is all stock footage because it's because the angles are all different.
Wait a minute.
But it's the best, it's the greatest show in the world.
Stock footage.
It's stock footage.
Look up, everyone, at nothing. Just save money.
Yeah, no,
But
that gray is lighter than the gray in the other shots.
Yeah.
Look over there at the stock footage.
Yeah. He's trying to distract her.
Oh, over there, the stock footage. It's so interesting.
The material on the circus tent isn't up to par.
No, it's not just that. It's not just that. When you see the film, and it's of a different, like, grainy, and then you go to the other, and it's like better quality. You could tell what they brought to it and what they got from another movie. It's pretty easy to tell sometimes.
Yeah, but the film finished filming within a week. So most of the time was probably spent on, like, the ape costume and the scene where the circus burns down. Because that one had to... That one was a big scene because they had to burn down a whole circus and try and manage that. Maybe they had to burn it down a couple more times just to make it last for enough for a month.
They probably filmed all the night sequences at the same time. What you would do is you would take one day and you'd film scene 6 and scene 9.
They'd film a lot of things out of order while they'd have to fill the actors in on how their character arc is at the moment. So they'd try their best to... make it not seem like they did it out of order.
That's not hard.
But yeah. Speaking of the ape costume, yeah, we have Crash Corrigan doing the apes here. As Dad said, he does his own ape costumes.
Well, I know that he used this costume again in some other different pictures. It's not the greatest costume, but it's not bad. Not for the time period. I mean, ape costumes were to get better of course, in the future. But at this point, they were like, hey, you got something decent? Okay, well, can I use it for this other picture? Yeah, I'm doing a Tarzan. Oh, you're doing a Tarzan.
Or he could be doing sort of like Lon Chaney was doing back in Phantom of the Opera. He made his own makeup, and so Crash Corrigan was sort of doing that as well. And as we talked about earlier with Errol Flynn, he did his own stunts. So there are a lot of people who are like, I'm gonna do my own stuff, and it's gonna be like pretty good jobs, but it's not like a professional made it, and it's like professionally styled or anything. But
so this is he is a successor to kind of the Charles Gamora kind of guy, right?
yeah,
Charles,
it's
Charles
so.
Gamora from
Murders on the Morgue.
Murders on the Rue Morgue. Yeah, there's some similarities with these two movies. There's bodily fluids being siphoned and put somewhere else, and there's an ape. Okay, I don't know much more than that.
Exactly. So let's get into the reception of this movie from contemporary reviews. The New York Times said, perhaps if you're under 12 or just like to be frightened and try very hard, the ape will scare the daylights out of you.
Yeah, okay,
so
sure.
If you're 9 years old, this is a horror movie. If you're 13 years old, or even my age, the sweet crisp 16, it's sadly not really.
It's goofy.
I'd have to agree, but we're probably gonna save all the plot stuff for later, because it's just wacky. And they said that Karloff is properly baleful. I don't know what baleful means, but it doesn't sound that great.
Sad and dour, serious and dour, I think.
I would say so. He's fairly serious, I guess, throughout the time. While the rest of the cast displayed dark looks in the best 1912 style of acting. So he's saying these people are better off in silent pictures than in sound pictures. Okay.
Well, I know the old lady Jane, the plays that she doesn't talk.
She did a lot of silent movie stuff.
She might as well have been in a silent movie with this one. She didn't do anything.
Yeah, and I'll talk about her a bit later. Revere and Variety said that the ultimate weight of the flick as a suspensor is null, and most of the footage is extremely boring. I'd have to say that as well.
That honestly, for a bad movie, that I hate to say this, but when you have a bad movie, the biggest crime that a bad movie can commit is boring. If you have a movie that's like dumb and bad acting, but like moves 100 miles an hour and it's just going, and you're just like, what was that? There's some movies that...
Yeah, this movie was just Bafflement the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to save a lot of the opinions on that for a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, that's sort of I sort of agree with that sentiment. Kate Cameron of New York Daily News, more optimistic, said that the film's plot doesn't bear scrutiny at a fair range, but it does get some good horror effects, I guess. I mean, most of it is physical. There isn't really many, like, special effects. Like, no one's, like, beaming everywhere, like, beam me up Scotty style.
Just the ape. It's just a guy... It's
just the ape.
Yeah, there's
horror effects.
There's no blood.
There are guinea pigs in the movie. Horror effects.
There are dogs being looked at. Horror
effects. Exactly.
I think it's more suggestive. The horror is more suggested to you than it actually is shown. I have words about that.
So, yeah, Irene Farrer of the New York Observer gave the film a fair ranking, FAIR in all caps.
Right.
So that's her rating system, stating it was not awfully exciting that Will and I directed the film rather tamely. And the Los Angeles Times reviewer, going by KG, optimistically stated that no matter how far-fetched the story, he always makes it believable. So, yeah, I guess it's believable, except for some things. We'll talk about that later.
It's believable up to a point. Let's just put it that way.
He concluded that a few loose ends mar the film. I would say that there's a million loose ends. But
there's at least 5 loose ends that totally, in my mind, but there didn't have to be a million. All you need is 5, and you're like, what?
Yeah, he noted the unnecessary fire sequence and the lack of explanation of what happened to the villain. Well, I guess there's an explanation. I don't know.
I have an
a reviewer for The Hollywood Reporter found the film to be a better production for Monogram, well-made, interesting, and notable for excellent performances from Boris. I'd have to agree. In the UK's Kinematograph Weekly called it first-class thriller fiction, and that Karloff acts with conviction and sincerity.
Yeah, but honestly, it's come some of his lesser acting. I will say.
First-class thriller fiction.
No.
To me, for this movie, that would be as plausible as saying IHOP pancakes are better than homemade.
What? No, not throwing shade on the International House of Pancakes.
But yeah, Karloff does act with conviction and sincerity. I guess I have to agree. From retrospective reviews, Phil Tardy's The Encyclopedia of Horror Movies found the film to be agreeably dotty, but distressingly tacky. So basically, it's off the walls, mad.
I like that.
And it's bad in quality.
I like that review. That's pretty truthful. Yeah, you got to just
pretty succinct.
Yeah.
So Michael Weldon's The Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film declared the film to be.
That.
Yeah, exactly.
I want that book.
He declared the film to be probably the silliest movie in Karloff's entire career. And you thought only Bela Lugosi made films this dumb. Fun fact, Bela would do The Ape Man and Return of the Ape Man, which are other ape movies. Will it be as dumb remains to be seen.
Wait. Dumber than that is Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn ape. That's that one. I don't know.
Like the whole premise is just he meets an ape. Like they could literally make like a short on that. They can make a Sesame Street segment based on that.
Listen. That's not. That's
just
not,
that concept.
It's not. That's not what the true thing of it is. What it is these two actors who are basically they are carbon copies of Martin and Lewis, which was Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, which were a comedy and singing duo, very famous. And these two guys basically are almost like, if you can't get them, you might as well get these other guys. I didn't even know who these guys were. And then they basically are most of the movie with them. And then the ape comes in at some point, and Bela Lugosi plays some kind of doctor. And so they're just like, Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla. Okay, what do you have a better name for it? Not currently. And it has musical numbers,
yeah,
too.
I guess so. I guess it's good for advertising.
Goofy romance.
Romance.
No.
Is Bella gonna like set the candles and
play the
he's just violin on the radio for his ape?
He's just in it.
That'd be funny. What other romance is there?
It's between there's Jungle Girls and a jungle. These two jungle like the main character. Look, it's a mashup movie. It's like let's get a gorilla and these Martin and Lewis knockoffs, and let's get Bela Lugosi and smush them all together. And look, Bela Lugosi has some more cringy stuff than Boris Karloff does. I hate to say it, but hey,
But yeah, we have this last review from the Motion Picture Guide, specifically found that the film never finds the right groove. Honestly, that's a good argument. Honestly, never finds the right groove. That does. Actually, that's pretty great.
I did find the
veering between odd thriller and ridiculous mad scientist tale.
I did find the definition of psychotronic, which it's actually a fantastic definition. It sounds like a kind of music, but it's denoting or relating to a genre of movies, typically with a science fiction, horror, or fantasy theme. Okay, that's us. That were made on a low budget or poorly received by critics. Oh, so basically we could call these movies Psychotronic Corner. We could say this is we could call our movies that are made on a super low budget or poorly received. We could call that Psychotronic Corner. No, something like that. Oh, but
I guess that works. I guess. So Vic Pratt wrote for the film, the British Film Institute, and found that the ape may be the most ludicrous of Karloff's career, but it's no less wonderful for that. I'd have to agree.
Well, he must like the cheesiness of it. So hey, you have to see this movie at least once in your life.
Yeah, but yeah, that was this movie. So this movie was all sorts of just wackadoo, and that's all I really want to say about that for this segment.
You might ask yourself, why did we do the ape? Well, I was looking through a list of movies to do, and anything that was on the edge of science fiction, horror, fantasy, adventure, and I was going down the years, and I said, well, I don't recognize that. Oh, it's got Boris Karloff. It'll be fine. And then I thought about it, went, wait a minute. A lot of these websites that are reviewing are giving it like 2 out of 5 stars. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. So let's just put it this way. We don't have a lot of information on the production information about this movie. I did find out that they took the ape makeup and everything like that makes up the ape, and they painted it white for Pongo, some kind of white ape called Pongo, and it's in another movie with the same actress who plays Frances, who is in this movie. She's a paraplegic, or she's got polio, so she can't walk. She's handicapped. But just to say, look, the majority of what we're going to talk about in this episode is going to be this plot, because oh boy, it's a doozy. One good thing about it, though, is like a lot of Monogram pictures that I saw, I didn't see them all, but most of them clocked in around an hour. So it kind of gets in and gets gone before you realize, before you get too bored with it.
Or realize the problem with it.
Realize the problem with the plot or the characters or the reasons why or any of those things. So let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll maybe try to wrap our brains around this plot that gets more insane as it goes, and then really goes off the deep end toward the end. And you trust me, you'll have to hear what we think about this one.
And we are back
on
Cinematic Fantastic Podcasts, where the movies that we're doing are both cinematic and fantastic.
And psychotronic.
Yeah, welcome to the Bill Nye Show. Today with Bill Nye, the director guy.
Director guy, right, exactly.
All right, so yeah, we have quite a plot. Quite a plot here.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening, but it's in a lot of Monogram pictures that I saw in the list of that they had done. They get in and they get out in the span of about 60 minutes. So if you can,
you don't even have time to think about to think carefully about how the story is going, and just it's just a wild ride. So please watch it. It is public domain.
It is public domain.
It is public domain.
We're going to put a link to it.
We will put in the description.
Descriptions everywhere. Yeah.
And we recommend you watch it before continuing. It's just an hour of your time. It's not like you're already spending like about 2 hours listening to an episode anyway. So why not spend an hour more of your time just to soak in this movie for what it is before we come to it with the perspective of having researched the plot and knowing that making more sense of the story that way. Because just first watching this movie, it's hard to make sense of it. I haven't even watched it after watching it that time, so my brain is still full of sort of just confusions, I guess.
Well,
so that'll
take this movie, okay, open it up.
Cum grano salis.
Cum grano salis.
Open it up, slide on in, and zip up the movie until you're wearing it like a costume, and then just walk around with it. Let it ride up on you a little bit. Feel the weight of the costume on you, as you walk around, and let it weigh upon your mind, and let you kind of go, what happened?
So really the film's story was very similar to other Mad Doctor movies that Karloff had made with Columbia. Like The Man That Could Not Hang, I think we're doing that one. The Man with 9 Lives, 1940, Before I Hang, lots of movies about hanging. The Devil Commands, which is like him versus the devil, I guess. Even Invisible Ray from Universal sort of speaks to that. He really did go on this trek of being mad scientist.
He was on a big mad science kick, yeah. But see, Bela Lugosi was...
Stuff like that,
Bela Lugosi was abandoning, a little bit, slowly but surely abandoning a little bit of those vampire and Dracula kind of movies, similarity to those. And he was doing more mad scientist kind of stuff. So they were both going in that direction.
Monogram wanted a guerrilla horror film. Kurt Sudmak wanted a film where Boris Karloff tries to cure polio by murdering people for their spinal fluid. He was going for a mad scientist story, and probably the first spinal fluid extraction mad scientist film ever, so kudos.
Well,
I mean... Anyway, somehow these two whims met in the final product, and this is the final product. Yeah. So, what we're going to be doing.
All right, I'm going to take it away.
Take it away. Just
all right, so you think that...
Take it from my eyeballs.
So they're going, this is a horror picture, we swear, as they start playing circus music.
Yeah, I was going to praise this movie for being unique in the fact that we hadn't seen a circus, like a circusy circus setting before, really, on the podcast. So it's a unique setting for setting something like this. Until
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Well, yes, and Murders in the Rue Morgue, technically, but
both had...
not like circusy circus, not with like this, the opening...
Not like a sideshow.
The opening credits are themed like the circus, with like the clown music and the red and white stripes.
It's calliope music sounding, Yeah,
pipe organ.
And
we never got something like that before, and I was like, this is going to be an interesting setting for a horror movie that could be capitalized upon. And I was about to praise it until, it did not capitalize on that. So, yeah.
So the circus is coming. You get this montage of overlaid scenes and music letting you know that the circus is coming. I mean, they pretty much go, by the way, if you didn't know, circus is coming. First shots of the movie plot is of these 3 or 4 boys that really want to go to the circus, but they're probably just going to get into trouble. It seems interesting that they were had those boys because... I don't know a lot of their other movies, but Monogram did do some Little Rascals stuff, which is basically a play on, it's Our Gang is what it's called. And there was also like the Bowery Street Boys, and there was another one called Spooks Gone Wild that had like young hoodlums or whatever. They were getting into trouble. So that seemed to be like some of their other movies that seemed to be like their meat and potatoes. They asked this mechanic guy named Danny, we'll see him again. They ask if they can get some old tires from him, and he says, why are you guys going to the circus? There's plenty of freaks around here.
Save your money. Plenty of freaks around here.
And I'm like, ouch, dude, you're kind of a jerk. But wait a minute. I think because we know he's Danny, he's actually the boyfriend of a character we see later, and he's actually very kind about her, almost to a fault. And so when he says freaks, he must be talking about the rest of the people in the town, not her, so to speak, but the rest of the people. I just had that thought. Rest of the people in the town he considers freaks, and they're freaking boring. That's about as close as I can say. So the kids have got nothing better to do. There's nothing to do in this town. It's really boring. So no apparent reason they decide to go over to a guy named Dr. Bernard Adrians as a doctor. And you're like, why do you want to go over his house? They want to throw rocks at his house. Okay, did he really deserve that? We don't know. We learned some more stuff about him where he's got a bad reputation. He's played by Boris Karloff with his nice little bushy mustache and his glasses. He looks a little bit like...
Yeah, he does get this mustache that is a pretty unique take on his character.
Well, he looks...
for that mustache.
But he looks...
He's had mustaches before, but he looks entirely different for that.
Yeah, I mean, we remember last time we saw him in a mustache would have been Invisible Ray. That was more dark hair. But he did a movie called The Night Key, which is kind of a crime thriller about security systems. And it's kind of interesting. I think it
is it as boring as it sounds.
It started out kind of interesting, and I think that after a while it just turned into another crime, suspense thriller. It's okay. I think by the time you realize that it's kind of boring, it kind of picks up and then it's done. It's not very memorable. It has maybe like a couple of memorable scenes. But I remembered it because of the way that Boris Karloff looks in this movie. He looks very much like his character in The Night Key. So anyway, back to this. So our first hint that that people in the town think the doctor's crazy because they're chucking rocks at his house. So we don't know why. Not really at this point. So Boris Karloff as Bernard Adrian comes down the road on a bicycle. He looks kind of like Christopher Lloyd from the Back to the Future movies a little bit. You'll see what I mean. So he's a very calm mad scientist, okay? He never gets He gets kind of excited at one point, but he never gets above like a 6.
He's being an old man, and old men usually have less energy.
Yeah, but he never gets so really like mad, crazy.
He never gets enthusiastic about something.
He gets a little enthusiastic at one point, but he maybe touches 7, but he goes right back down to 6. So anyway, he grabs one of the little kids, but the kid escapes, and he's going to make a big deal about it later that the doctor grabbed him. He's going to be like, this guy grabbed me, he hit me.
He ran after me, hurt me, and I wasn't doing nothing.
Not really, but we see Dr. Adrian in his lab with a bunch of chemistry sets, stuff, and beakers and junk, and you were commenting on that it's a little tall for him to be pouring stuff in. Does that make sense? I don't know. I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, there was the chemistry set, and there was this just one vial looking doohickey thing. One vial that was just really tall for like no reason.
There's got to be reasons.
Is it like all the beakers look normal and stuff, all of the little tubes and stuff, and then there's just this big instrument that's just just really tall.
Well, it's to
like,
distill
why?
things. We don't know a lot about. Okay, frankly.
I know there has to be a distiller, but like, why did it have to be that tall in that position?
But William, we are a science fiction movie podcast. We're not a science podcast. We know some things, but we don't know everything. So,
of course, don't you know anything about science?
But honestly,
it's a prop. It's a prop.
It was also. You're right. This is not. A lot of that stuff is props. It's just that when they did the Strickfaden stuff in the Frankenstein movies and other movies, at least it looked cooler. If you're gonna have useless technology in a lab for a mad scientist things that go buzz 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 and zap zap zap, at least make it look cool. Except what he has there it almost looks kind of a very boring chemistry teacher kind of setup. But hey, maybe that lends it credibility. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about that. But moving on. He is checking in on these 2 dogs for some reason. Okay. I guess. Okay, so in comes his maid, this old lady. She doesn't say anything in this movie. Of course, I made the joke that if she said something, they'd have to pay her money more. Okay, so this is Gertrude Hoffman. She's 69 years old. She's playing the mute housekeeper, Jane. Okay, so this wouldn't be the first time that a Poverty Row studio made an unwritten part, one of the larger supporting roles without bothering to write any lines for him. One of the reasons is there was such an abundance of mute characters in cheap movies with the non-speaking characters were paid less than the speaking extras. There's even a scene where she mouths a line to Karloff because she isn't even allowed to speak, but nevertheless she does give a pretty good performance here, whatever that might be. Then we go on to another scene of 2 people coming down the road to go into the general store. I guess it's a pharmacy, I guess is what it is. And one of the guys, Henry Mason, he's like the banker, right? He thinks that Dr. Adrian should have been run out of town long ago. He's given the town a bad name. The town's called Red Creek. There was an epidemic a while back, and I found out later that it was paralysis or polio, really. And Dr. Adrian was using a lot of the patients of that as kind of guinea pigs. We do see guinea pigs later. Some people, were okay with him, and some people were not. But he's got a bad reputation in the town. So this guy Mason doesn't like him. Mason's a banker, and he's always overcharging on loans. While he's talking bad about Dr. Adrian, the pharmacy, who else would come in but Dr. Adrian? I mean, speak of the devil, and he shall appear, right?
Right.
He's getting a prescription filled. The pharmacist is busy, so he goes right back in the back and starts mixing it up anyway. I was like, okay, this guy's a little full of himself because he's like, I can do this job better than you. I was kind of like, bro, you're really not allowed to go back there. That's the law. And he was like,
yeah, anything I can do, anything you can do, I can do better. To quote the song from the
musical.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yeah, exactly, right. So,
I don't remember what musical though, but we're getting sidetracked.
Oh, that's what we always do. Okay, so the pharmacist says,
we're the 10 gentlemen after all.
We are the 10 gentlemen. So the pharmacist says,
all right, so the
pharmacist does say that Dr. Adrian knows about that there's these experiments that he's doing on animals, but he said, I'm done with that phase of the experiment. Dr. Adrian then comes over first of many visits to the Cliffords' house. The Cliffords, the mother, and her daughter Frances Clifford. And Frances is in a wheelchair, and it seems that she has polio and she can't walk. People are like, well, what's polio? And most people nowadays just go like, what is that? They don't know what that is, because later on, the cure for that would be discovered to great aplomb and great applause. So in 1940, polio was a major issue in the U.S. It's a viral disease that attacks the central nervous system. Tens of thousands of Americans were affected. The majority of cases didn't have any symptoms, but about 1% had muscle weakness, which in severe cases, you had paralysis, mostly in the legs, but also in the upper body. And it could be also in the lungs and heart, which would, of course, kill you. In 1940, then U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he suffered from that disease, and he was wheelchair bound. The struggle of polio had an official face to it. It's the president. Even though later research usually came to the conclusion that he didn't suffer from polio, but from another similar affliction, people still went, oh, he's got polio. Sorry. In 1938, he did instigate what's called March of Dimes. That still is ongoing. It raises money for polio patient care and rehabilitation and research. So it was very much in the public eye at the time. I think later there would be
Yeah, and he really did sort of stuff like that with something like the New Deal earlier in the 30s, which he did.
That was after the Depression.
We did mention that a little bit earlier. We mentioned that in our Things to Come episode for those wanting some World War II cool talking. We do that there. We're probably not going to talk about the war this episode, but we're going to talk about it in a future episode. A bit more of the effects of it, especially when the U.S. wasn't even involved in it till 41. But
we did also talk about the Great Depression a lot. I think after King Kong, we kind of talked about the Great Depression because people were.
And in fact, now because of educational advancement, I do know basically why the Great Depression sort of happened and the New Deal was sort of made to fix that. Was basically World War II was devastating to Germany. They had to pay back $35 million for all the trouble they caused during the war. They still haven't paid it back because it was so stressful. Couldn't pay it all back. This caused Britain, who wanted to pay back the U.S. with the money from Germany, to donate to Germany in the hopes that they invest it. And then this went wrong because Germany did not invest it, so the U.S. loaned to them because they were the major loaner. And the fruitless feedback loop contributed to the Great Depression, and then Roosevelt came along with a New Deal. It didn't work for the Depression, though, so I wonder how it actually closed. But yeah, that's the gist of that.
Yep, and then
short little history thing.
Yep.
The History Channel.
History, real stuff, real life, real important.
But anyway,
now back to the stupid movie. Now back to the stupid movie. Dr. Adrian has brought Frances a jewelry in a jewelry case. But she says, it's not my birthday. My birthday was last month. But he said, it's a make-believe birthday for a make-believe daughter.
Well, this is a make-believe birthday, just as you're my make-believe daughter.
Now, you get the point that he has a kind of a backstory. His wife and his daughter, he lost them like 10 years ago. She would have been 18, something like if she had lived.
So he was his virtual daughter.
Kind of, yeah. He says make-believe daughter.
For an emotional level.
Right.
And a virtual daughter.
In a way, and it's kind of.
And so he gives her gifts.
He gives her a gift. And he says, I couldn't save them then, but I could probably, with the knowledge I have now, I could probably do that. He wants to help her walk again. So Frances says that Danny the mechanic is going to the circus, and when he gets back, he'll tell her all about it. And Dr. Adrian's like, no, you got to go on a date. I mean, that's kind of nice. Frances doesn't believe any of the nonsense that everybody says about him. She actually has a really good heart. She's probably the best character in here other than Danny. You know, Danny is kind of good to a fault. Danny's going to the circus, and Dr. Adrian is saying, okay, you can, you guys can go together. Now, it seems like she thinks he's going to go, the doctor's going to go too, but he basically just helps her get the wheelchair on the back of Danny's car or Jeep or whatever it is, and truck. And it's very like rickety. I was commenting on the fact that if she just lets her hand go, she's going to roll off that thing and she's going to be dead for real. She'll be doing a lot more than not walking around. She'll be doing a lot, not breathing at all either.
Well, hey, back in the day, there used to seatbelts were a dream, basically.
Oh, you didn't have to.
Cars were not as safe as they used to be. I mean, imagine like that old rickety like Ford. Imagine how much that ricketed back and forth, just because it's so primitive and all the black smoke puffing from it. Just cars were probably not very good for society, especially leaded gas was something not great that definitely needed a fix.
Well, then the doctor says, hey, I'll just stay behind and everything will be fine. And she's like, no, come on. But I think he's kind of like, well, I'll just be a third wheel and you guys have a date. So the mom is kind of sad because the daughter didn't get to go out a lot and yada yada. So anyway, this is all just relationshipy stuff. The point is, we're going to the circus. Let's see a lot. Oh, look at that. It's a stock shot of the circus. Look at that. There's another stock shot. And there's another film shot from another movie. Oh, isn't that great? All right, so even the little boys from earlier who were chucking rocks, they sneak in, and they're in the way. They're kind of like in the aisle. So the peanut
and they're not supposed to be
there.
The
peanut man is going to trip over them, and of course, I mean, how is the sheriff?
Oh yeah, I was talking about him like literally standing up on the front seats, and I was like, "What on earth are you doing?"
So relatable. The hot dog dude is just like, Why did he have to step on the chair, on the people?
Well, because that's not where people are supposed to sit.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't stand on those seats.
Well, the other
you're not supposed to.
Yeah, you're gonna trip. It's a fire hazard. Too soon. I thought that. Yeah, fire hazard does.
But yeah, there is a gorilla. He's a sideshow, and he is more than 6 feet tall, I'd guess. He's really big.
He's the biggest gorilla in the world, William.
That ape is bigger than 6 men. 6 big men.
It's the biggest ape gorilla in the whole world.
Yeah.
What about King Kong? No. He's the biggest gorilla.
Right at the beginning of the movie. At the beginning of the movie, he was advertised he was the biggest gorilla in the world. Not only the land, but the world.
Greatest show in America makes sense. Greatest show in Brazil probably more makes sense. Or in Africa. In the world?
And how many years ago was it?
King Kong the musical. Yeah. King Kong the musical had a huge King Kong that was literally like the size of the whole stage.
It was insane.
I mean, even still, the King Kong the movie, they had to make a whole huge stage that just accommodated King Kong.
Yeah, it was only seven. That was only 7 years ago, around, and the King Kong. So they must have forgot that But these kids weren't probably.
They forgot the true King of the Apes.
Yeah, and long may he live. Long may his reign, until the next beauty. Or Godzilla wants to kill him, he'll still live in our hearts. All right, so we see Mason the banker. He's if we didn't like him before, we hated him before because he's a banker and he's kind of a jerk, and he's out on the town with a woman. We find out this is not his wife, so he's a bigamist. He's an adulterer, philanderer, whatever. Then we watch the Trapeze Act. That does actually look like it was kind of. It has the same kind of film stock as the rest of the movie, so I think it may be part of this movie. Anyway. Francis mentions that there's lots of muscular ability required to do all that, and Danny's like, "Oh, whatever. Look over there," And she even says, "Oh, she's beautiful," and he goes, oh, "I saw her come by the shop, and she ain't all that." So you see what he's doing? He's throwing out negative comments about about other women and saying, I think the actress who plays Frances is she's quite attractive for 1940s. Come on. So I mean, he's really being nice, but we see later that he's a little too protective of her. He doesn't even let when there's something that could help her walk, which I get it. He even says later that he doesn't care whether she walks or not. He loves her regardless. That's really sweet. But even when there's a cure available, he's just like, I don't like this stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so we've got an intercut shot of the doctor working with the dog, and he goes, "This is really good that I've done for the dog. What could I do for men?" And you're like, "Okay, did you heal him? I don't know." And then it goes right back to the circus.
So people usually ask, "What is the dog doing?" But I'm asking, "What is the man doing with the dog?"
And the circus is over. Everybody goes home, and we see the guy that runs the circus runner. I don't know whatever to call him. He's going around looking at all the different sideshows and exhibits. And he finds the ape trainer, if you can call him that. He's shoving a stick at the gorilla previously mentioned. The gorilla is known as Naboo. No, not the planet where the Gungans live, but Naboo.
I told him to stay on Naboo. Maybe we can contact Anakin on Naboo.
Wait, that's the same thing. Anyway, that's Ray Crash Corrigan, getting shoved with a stick. He's in the gorilla costume. It would see a lot of reuse later. So the trainer's dad 2 years ago was killed by the ape. And it's probably getting revenge on it because he was stabbed, with a stick too. He's like,
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's introduce some backstory at like rapid fire, huh?
It's like, hey guys, backstory right now. We got
If you didn't know, my father got killed 2 years ago. Really? Oh yeah. Okay, so the trainer guy's smoking a cigar.
You're kidding, my father.
Yeah.
Prepared to die.
Yeah.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
So the trainer guy's smoking a cigar. The ape attacks him.
He can't even grip it with his wrist.
And he gets away from the ape, but the cigar goes flying into some hay. Like, there's just so many fire hazards around this place.
Oh no, there's a fire. Oh no, and then there's a fire, and then the ape escapes.
Yeah, grape ape escapes.
Oh yeah, there's a video game called Ape Escape, I believe. It was. It's fairly bloody, but that's because you play like this gorilla. It's like stylized, like orange.
What
like
about the
film opening, sort of like that, and you kill people as a gorilla. It's fun.
So what's that other game called? Monkey Ball. Was that other game where it's like monkey in a ball in a little plastic ball? You're like rolling around. All right.
Yeah, that's fun. Anyway,
so
we're
trying here.
We're monkeying out here.
Yes. So the gorilla is running around on all fours and two legs, like gorillas are supposed to do, and we'll comment on that in just a minute. So he's going, and the sheriff wants to get together a posse and hunt after the escaped gorilla after they get that fire put out. Right. So the sheriff comes to see the doctor. That gives him the trainer because the trainer has been mauled, right? And he goes, take a look at him, see what you can do. Peace out. We got to go. The doctor takes a look at, gets this look in his eye like, hey, what if this guy were to die and then I could do some experimenting on him? I'm like, oh, here comes the bad science part of this.
What is he injecting him for? He's gonna turn him into an ape.
No, I'm gonna write you in a minute.
No, I know, but turn him into an ape or something. And inject him with monkey fluid. Or something, I don't know.
So the doctor is writing down everything he's doing for science. But the bad part of it is that what he's doing is immoral. So he's kind of shooting himself in the foot. He wrote down all his crimes. Case history of interest, injections, death of patient due to fractured cervical vertebrae caused by attack by ape by means of lumbar puncture. That's like spine injections, right? 2 cc's of spinal fluid removed from deceased circus trainer. With this human spinal fluid, I will attempt to relieve the paralytic condition of patient Francis Clifford by means of the spinal injections. Why is he writing down everything? He's writing down all his crimes? So you have to keep good records as an experimenter. So he's writing down everything. I'm going to murder thousands of people just to help this one girl. Wait, should I be writing this down? Yeah. Because it can be used in a courtroom.
Yeah, used in court.
We have a sheet here that says that you sucked out spinal fluid at thousands of people. Oh, who, me? Yeah, you wrote it all down, dummy. Okay, he wrote down everything. Now, granted, if he ever goes to jail...
later he gets accompanied for his scientific efforts. He finds someone who sort of empathizes, or not maybe empathizes with, but he's from the university.
Yeah, we'll find out him later. That there's again more backstory gets layered on this guy. So we get our first official victim, so to speak. So the sheriff
might say silverback story.
Oh,
I just thought of that.
Sorry,
that's
okay.
Great.
That's fantastic. That's
hit you in the funny bone. Speaking of funny bones,
right. Spines. Yeah, this book has a spine. So we get our first official victim. The sheriff is getting his posse together. They ask Mason, the banker, if he wants to join the posse, and he's like, I don't care about these people. Dr. Adrian goes over to Francis Clifford's house like about 4 times in this movie, so it's kind of repetitive. He tells her and her mom that he knows what he needs for the serum that he's working on. He's going to start giving her some treatments. It's not just for her, but everybody who's ever suffered with polio, all the little boys and girls in the world who have to spend their lives in a wheelchair. Oh, that's nice. Mason comes in while the sheriff is plotting a hunting trip, and he wants him to put out a dispossession notice and do it now. And he's like, no, we got to go out and get this gorilla. We'll do it later, you idiot. So the doctor comes back out over to check on the treatment that he's giving Frances, and her legs feel like lead. Feel is the operative word. She can actually feel her legs and how heavy they are. Okay.
She often in the movie says that she can feel pain in her legs, and it's like, well, it's better than nothing.
Well, yeah,
so,
well that's what the doctor says, and so the treatments are working. Dr. Adrian is back at the lab. He shows Jane the serum. Man, Jane knows everything. If she could only like speak and be a witness, she could like, let everybody know his crimes.
Yeah.
She's like this.
Although, is it a coincidence that her name is Jane and we're in an ape movie?
I think it's a coincidence, but I think it's hilarious. Me ape you Jane. All right, so he shows her the serum or fluid in a small beaker, and somehow gravity alters and it rolls straight off a table.
Suddenly the gravitational yaw pitch of the Earth suddenly turns so much 4 degrees in order to tip the bottle.
What is that? I don't know how. You were just like, what?
I was confused at this moment. I was like, it just rolled off.
No, it's the meat of plot.
I haven't even processed it fully.
There's a
and then that's his turn for the worst. Basically, yeah. as we see later, but like, yeah, I was.
No. Listen. It's a thing.
And he stared at it for like a straight 20 seconds, and I was like, okay.
Because he's shocked. He's shocked that all that work, that he had to not do. The dead guy just showed up. I mean, the spine guy just showed up on his doorstep. Kind of. He didn't really have to do anything to get it. But now he has to think. See, now he's thinking, what do I have to do? So, but me and your mother, William, have this thing where we're watching a movie and we're like, why did that happen? It's called NOP, need of plot. NOD or NOP, need of drama, need of plot.
Like in this case, the gorilla just wandering around this one dude's house
the plot required it.
Get established in the beginning of a movie.
Yeah,
because the plot required it.
Yes. So okay, so after that happens, Jane walks away. Like Dr. Adrian's gonna punch her for like letting the thing fall to the ground. So no, okay, yeah, the ape is shown in the neighborhood. So he's hanging around like Mr. Rogers in the neighborhood, and that this movie is called The Ape.
He's curious, George.
He's curious, right? This movie is called The Ape, right?
Oh, and he doesn't have a tail.
That's right.
So he's not a monkey.
He's an ape.
That's right.
So this movie is called The Ape, and so this is the ape. The titular ape of the movie, right? So a couple of the posse members
it's a bit underwhelming.
They find somebody who has been mauled. Okay, the ape is over at Dr. Adrian's house, and he sees the trainer's coat in the window, and he busts in through the window. It's kind of cool. It's like he's like, "Hey, Kool-Aid!" The ape goes ape on the window and runs in. Dr. Adrian comes in and pours some liquid of some sort in his eyes. I was thinking, of course, it was acid, but I was like, that's really cool. And then I went, oh, that's uncool because you're hurting an animal. Dr. Adrian then stabs the ape with something. I didn't know what it was. And then it was like, it's a scalpel. He just stabbed them with a knife. Okay, roll credits. The movie's over. Everybody can go home. That's the plot of the... No, I'm kidding. I lied. It's an hour long. That was only 30 minutes in. All right. So the movie...
Yeah, we were seriously like, it's only 30 minutes in, and he stabs the ape, and it's like, what? How does that... we came for ape. No ape. What do we do?
And he's done.
This would have been better as a serial picture and just something on TV, but TV was
cliffhanger.
So.
Right. The guys in the posse, like I said, come back over to the doctor's house, and they say that the ape got Wilcox.
Hey, Doc! Yeah, what's wrong? The ape got Wilcox.
I guess Wilcox is one of the nameless people who can't act in this movie. The mute housekeeper and Dr. Adrian have a little bit of a secret. Okay, but I think Jane can keep a secret really well because she's not paid to talk. We don't know what it is yet, but it's a doozy. Okay. So Dr. Adrian tells Jane, only you and I know he is dead.
Oh, well, it's a secret to everyone. It's a secret to everybody.
Yeah, even us for a little bit. So now in the next scene, we're in the daytime. Okay, and boyfriend mechanic Danny is talking to Frances in the wheelchair. Frances is saying that her legs are hurting her, and it's all due to the doctor's successes, right? Danny does not like that she's in pain, even though she explains to him she can actually feel things, okay, in her legs, and that's good.
She's feeling pain.
He doesn't.
That's good.
No, he doesn't like it that she's in pain. I don't like that. He doesn't seem to be very bright, but he is a nice guy. He does have her best interest at heart, okay? He does have a line where he says that he doesn't care if she's out of the wheelchair or not. He loves her just the same, which is great. I mean, that's really sweet. But if there's a way that she can't...
He's a pretty good husband, but he's also more of a country bumpkin.
Yeah, if there's a way that she can be healed, that'd be awesome.
I may be stupid.
I'm not a smart man,
but I know
what
love is. It's like, yeah, that's Forrest Gump. So Danny says a line where he says, I don't like anything I can't understand.
I don't like things I can't understand.
So like magnets or gravity or taxes, or how come Steve Gutenberg has a career, or how the Twilight films were so popular, when they sucked so bad. He's going to have a lot to hate in about 4 or 5 decades when they discover quantum mechanics. He's going to really hate that. So anything he doesn't understand, he hates. So honestly, he'd be perfect for today's Twitter and YouTube world.
Yeah, I've been trying to dip my head into quantum mechanics just a little bit, just to see how it is, and I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Just like just the rising edges and the falling edges of like the quantum.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
I don't know what
the
term was. It's a particle of some sort.
It's like this Schrodinger's cat.
It's a signal. It's electrical signal.
Where the cat
that has something, but it's like magnetic.
Where it's a wave and a particle. So here's the thing. The Schrodinger's cat experiment, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time until you open the box and
and this is us in this movie. We are both alive and dead at the same time.
And I so you could say that I understand quantum mechanics and I also don't understand quantum mechanics at the same time. So that's just like the cat.
I need to go back and research quantum mechanics again.
Right. All right. So
but yeah, Dr. Adrian.
So Dr. Adrian is a good guy, it seems, right? So Dr. Adrian wouldn't hurt her if he didn't have to. That sounds kind of like what people in abusive relationships say. I don't want to hurt you if you don't make me. I'm like, but I don't think that's what's going on here.
The code wouldn't allow that.
The code would not allow. Yes. Okay, so the sheriff and the posse, again, they got the dogs out, so I guess they let the dogs out. The dogs have led them to Dr. Adrian's house, and he's putting out bug repellent stuff, I guess. Adrian says he hasn't seen the ape, okay? The next scene is at night. We see Dr. Adrian, his shadowy lab, right? And the ape is there. The ape leaves the lab walking in a weird way, kind of...
Yeah, he's just dawdle, just on his legs. He's not even giving up much of a pretense.
Like a 3-year-old, right? Like a little 3-year-old with what's it called? The bow-legged cowboy, like a cowboy.
Oh, did you see that cut? What was that stroll? He's just like straight back, just little tiny stroll, just let it down.
These people have never seen an ape move around, have they?
Oh my goodness! I still don't understand.
Anyway, so the banker Henry Mason is at his house, right? At Henry Mason's house, and his wife is cooking lamb supper for him, and he wants to leave. His excuse is that he's got to go help hunt the ape, and she's like, "No, I suspect that you're stepping out on me with some other woman." And she wishes that he wouldn't cheat on her in the open because it embarrasses her, because everybody pities her. And this is a line where she goes,
Even if you go somewhere else.
Why don't you try going somewhere else?
But I have no one but you. I have no folks. I've got no place to go.
You got the river.
I mean, that's the coldest...
Just go jump in the river.
That's the coldest line I've ever heard, okay?
For a cold guy to do that, as cold as the river Mississippi
Well,
itself.
he's fixing to be a lot colder in a minute, because when you know it, Mr. Jerk, Henry Mason, he steps out the door, a couple steps out, and the ape gets him, and we assume kills him. And ape goes back to the lab for some reason.
He's like, la-di-da. I don't know how gorillas move. I didn't use one as reference.
Some of the townsfolk are talking in the pharmacy, which is, I guess that's just like the town square for them, isn't it? We're just blah, blah, blah. It's like their forum or something. It's like their Discord, their public Discord. So some of the townsfolk are talking in the pharmacy about Mason's death, and some people are cool with it, and some people are not, and they think the ape is cool for doing the killing. So it's like, oh, they're pro-ape. The sheriff mentions when he comes in that they're tired from the manhunt, and they've got the dogs with them, right? And they were looking at footprints of the ape around Dr. Adrian's house a lot. So Dr. Adrian comes in for some medication. He's not paying attention to where he's going, and the dogs are sniffing at him for some reason. It's real strange. So Dr. Adrian's in the lab again, mixing chemicals. Next thing we see Danny and Frances' mother and Frances. And Danny is nervous about Frances, as you might expect. He doesn't like the doctor. Doctor comes over to Frances' house, and they have a conversation.
And he's basically sort of like, hey, are you gonna treat her like one of those guinea pigs that you're injecting spinal fluid with, and you're just don't even care about her, you just care for science and innovation?
Yeah, he says, I'm doing it for...
I'd probably be like, probably.
He's like, I'm doing it for.
I'd pull Igor, and I would say, they said.
Allegedly. Right. So he said, I'm doing it to help the world. He goes, I don't care about the world. I don't care if you're trying to find some kind of cure. I think that you're just treating her like a guinea pig. Right. So Frances says she's in pain. The doctor says that's a good thing, and he gives her another treatment. Right. So in the next scene, the coroner, who is the person who like gets the dead bodies, right, and prepares them for whatever. You know, they have to look over the bodies and see how did they die, all the kind of stuff. They have to write all that stuff up. They bring in an outside medical expert. This is the guy you talked about earlier, to talk about the circus trainer's death and the death that's just happened. They both have fractured vertebrae, and the Dr. Adrian's name is on the death certificate for both. You know,
he's like, are you extracting his spinal fluid? And he's like, no.
So Francis,
what do you mean?
Yeah. Frances' legs are hurting worse than the previous day, but the doctor insists that she can move her foot, and he insists. She's like, "Move your foot, move it," and she moves. She does move her right foot, so it is working, right?
Yeah, she did move her foot before and move it again, but he just starts yelling at her, being like, "Move your foot."
Yeah, but
she's constantly like, she can. She's like, I can't. I absolutely can't.
It's tough love.
Like, just forget that you're a cripple. Forget.
Paralysis. Put that out of your mind.
That's what he's saying.
So Dr. Adrian comes back to his house, and Dr. McNulty, who is that guy that they called in, he's actually from the Robinson Foundation, the same medical expert guy. He says there's a spinal puncture on the circus performer guy, and there's been an epidemic of paralysis and polio in the area a while ago. About 25 years ago, the Robinson Foundation expelled Dr. Adrian. Isn't this always the case when they're like, they didn't believe me back at the university. They called me mad. I'll show them. How many movies have we?
Yeah.
Isn't that like a classic thing? How many movies have we done? I'm not really asking the question. I don't want to count. But we've done quite a few of those where
I think
2 or 3 at least.
At least, yeah. But I think next scene, the ape comes out and they shoot at the ape. The little boys.
Well, I'll show you. Okay, so Dr. McNulty, he does kind of know that what's happening, and he goes, well, let me show you some of my stuff. And he goes, he takes him over to see Frances. He keeps saying, move, you did move earlier, and she's like, I can't. And
he's
so
trying to prove to him that he can.
But the doctor touched on her legs, and he felt a reflex response in her muscles.
And somehow he's like, well, I felt the reflex response, so I completely believe you. I'm like, okay.
He's like, this is really promising. Do you want to come back to the rock?
I was like, come again? You just conveniently?
Oh, everything's fine. All is forgiven. All is forgiven.
I touched all the effort
her
and
legs
all the
twitched.
yelling. You should have thought he was cuckoo.
Yeah.
Until just, I heard, I felt her nerves moving. It's obviously true.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and he goes, you want to come back to the Robinson Foundation? He's like, no, I have some more work to do in this town. Okay, so then we see some... I think a lot of these ape shots are reused. Do you think they're like, of him walking?
Yeah, they are.
Because they're like, Crash, we only need you to walk once. We'll just loop it again. All right, so, and like you said, the 3 or 4 boys see the ape and shoot at him. They hit him in the shoulder or neck or something. The boys run off, and their mothers are looking for him, and they're talking to the sheriff about it. And they're like, you think this scene is like, oh no, the boys are going to be lost, and oh no, I can't find him. They find him instantly. All right, they just show up. And they said, we shot at him with a .22 caliber rifle, okay? And while the sheriff and the boys and everybody's going, oh, let's go hunt, the sheriff stops at Dr. Adrian's house, like 3 times in this movie, I think. He wants to talk to the doctor. The doctor says that the ape tends to hang around his house sniffing around. The theory is that the clothing of the circus trainer that has the ape scent on it is what's driving him crazy, I guess.
So I guess the doctor just has to say, no more monkeys jumping on my bed.
Right. The sheriff suggests that he leaves some of his men there overnight to watch out for the house, but he says that'll just bother the work I'm doing. So the sheriff and the posse head elsewhere. So it seems like he has some plan, and that's going to mess it up. So Dr. Adrian is tired, though, but he says, I cannot fail. I must not fail. Okay, so in the next scene, once again, Dr. Adrian, Danny, the mechanic boyfriend, Francis in the wheelchair with Francis' mom, they're all together. Dr. Adrian is good-naturedly barking orders at Frances to move her legs, and she's saying, I can't. The boyfriend's saying, stop, you're hurting her. But obviously, barking the commands works.
It doesn't work.
She moves her legs, though. First the right, then the left. He keeps telling her to imagine that you're not paralyzed. Stand up and walk. And if her mind is holding you in that chair, not your body, in the name of Dr. Jesus, scientist, arise. It takes a lot of energy to do that. So she
Was that a reference?
No, she stands up. She stands up with a lot of energy, and then she falls back in the chair. The boyfriend, he says, "You see, doctor? You see what you're doing to her? Yeah, I'm helping her walk, Danny. You know what love is, but you're not a smart man, Jenny." All right, so Dr. Adrian, he knows that she needs more treatment. He needs like 1 or 2 more, whatever. So the sheriff goes and visits the guy who runs. Okay, this part is really filler. Again, welcome to filler.
Yeah, because we already learned the information, and yet we have the sheriff learning the exact same information.
Exactly, that's repetitive. This is writing 101. You're just repeating the scene because you know that he goes over to the circus trainer guy, and there's an interesting conversation, though. He says, what about the possible habits of the ape, right? And like the genius he is, he says, oh, all animals are alike. Elephants, dogs, chipmunks, orangutans, and
I'm like, no,
anteaters,
there's differences.
ocelots.
Prey.
They all have a
There's predator and prey.
William, you don't understand. They all have a one-track mind. One-track mind. No, I won't hear of it. One-track mind. So there you go. Case closed. We don't need any more scientific inquiry into animal behavior. We're done. This guy knows everything, okay?
No, seriously, he doesn't.
Okay, but
anyway.
he does give one clue. He says that the ape eats fruits and vegetables mostly. He doesn't really attack people. So it's interesting that it's like, oh, okay, well, this ape wouldn't have been attacking a bunch of people. So they talk about the smell of the trainer on the code, which they already know. Filler scene, absolutely. So the doctor said the 2 injections should have been enough, but he's got to do 1 more. Anybody else's spines need juicing? Just take your spine, put it in a juicer? No? Okay. We're just we're just using it.
Will it blend?
Will it blend? Oh, I love it. Man, we're just using up time until the last scene, aren't we? Okay. So the sheriff comes back looking for the doctor, and he's not there at the house.
Yeah, because, see, we had, like, a turning point of events for the character, sort of a bit, slight spoilers for what's coming next, but at halfway through the movie, and so they have to stretch out a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
It sure does go quick.
I'm going to try. Happening. So the posse is hanging out near the doctor's house because he might come back there. It's like, that makes sense, right? Do apes ever return to the scene of the crime? One of the guys says that. I want a t-shirt with that on it. So the ape takes another victim, but he's not a victim, right? He stabs the ape with a nice-sized knife. They fire a shot at and everybody comes, not at the ape, but they fire a shot in the air. Everybody comes running, and they see the ape staggering off back to the doctor's house. So the ape passes Frances's house, and she sees him. She yells out a warning to the ape is going to the doctor's house. She yells out a warning to the doctor and rolls up to his front porch. The posse members give the ape another gunshot wound, okay? The gorilla has collapsed on the front porch of the doctor's house. The sheriff checks the ape to see if he's going to give up the ghost and die. Then he notices something that broke my brain. He notices that the ape's face is a mask, and inside is the very person of Dr. Bernard Adrian.
Why?
Boris Karloff was the villain because he didn't have enough of the serum that it just spilled over the floor. He resolved to hide inside the ape's corpse, as you do, and kill people that way. So it's like, I killed the ape, and
I can't just go kill people as myself. I have to dress up like
what thought process you have to have. It's got to be a really long one, but it's like, okay, I don't have any serum anymore, and then just all the thoughts eventually have to lead to, I'm gonna masquerade as the ape and kill people that way.
He took this ape like an orange, and he pulled all the pulp out of the inside of the orange and left just the peel. And then he slipped.
Just like my brain in this movie.
And he slipped himself into the peel and went, I'm an orange. Rawr. I mean, that's what he did.
But it doesn't even make sense, considering the past events.
So he's been wearing the skin and body of the ape as a costume to kill people and take their spinal fluid to make the serum so Francis can walk. They take the costume or corpse or whatever off the doctor. He's not covered in any filthy dark blood or anything like that. He's just wearing a shirt underneath all that, and he's not sweaty at all. It doesn't make sense. This part's kind of sweet. Francis gets out of the chair and walks toward the doctor, and the doctor's theories were right, and then he dies. Okay, and then he dies. Hey, wasn't it worth it for 3 people to die so one lady can walk? Even though Danny the mechanic boyfriend loved her regardless of her walking capability. So honestly,
yeah, she had to stand up in the last moments though, so
but
that
that's
he could
sweet.
like, stare at her for his final
That's
time.
kind of sweet though,
and it's sort of epic the way that the camera is posed. At least I guess it's pretty good. But it's just
Danny comes over to Francis' house at the capper scene at the end of this movie. Okay, and she insists, hey, I no, you stay over there. I won't, don't come to me. I'll come to you. And she walks across the yard to come see him. She stumbles a little bit at the last moment, but he's okay. Francis and her mother burn the chair. She never has to use that thing again. It's like those explorers of old who, when reaching the shore, burned their ships, right? So, yeah.
And so she tries to play a game of tennis with Danny, but Danny's like, lay off of it, and she's like, I'm fine. And that's like that last
It's exactly like that. Nice little happy music, roll the credits. What did we even just watch? I'm insane.
This last I think it was like the last like less than 10 minutes that they were wrapping up this conflict. I still don't know what this movie I still don't know what this movie was intended to come across. Like, what was I supposed to expect with this? Like, constantly watching like this last part of the movie. Like, this,
my jaw was just like, what?
Conflict.
I was just like, why? But
like, just constantly, I was just like, is there something I'm missing here? Like, I can't connect what on earth is happening, or like what I should care about the character's efforts, resolving what's happening, stuff like that.
Think about this. It's like the scene in Empire Strikes Back where Han Solo cuts open the Tauntaun, right? And he puts Luke Skywalker into the Tauntaun. Now, Luke can walk around as the Tauntaun and suck out people's spinal fluid to save somebody's girlfriend that he cares about. That's
totally how the movie
makes
went.
sense, okay? I don't get it, though. I don't understand why the dogs were always crazy when he was around. I do understand why the dogs were always crazy when he was around. He's been inside a gorilla corpse. He probably stinks, okay?
Yeah, but
Where did he put the monkey meat? Where did Dr. Adrian put the monkey meat so he could walk around as Naboo, the bow-legged circus ape? The world may never know. There's never been a scene where he takes a shower either, right? So I don't understand my own brain and thoughts at this point. I think this movie broke my brain. Please tell me what your thoughts.
It broke my brain too, but I was explaining I was saying earlier about this movie was sort of like a simmering lukewarm cup of coffee because it's dry conflict at this last moment.
Yes.
Because there's no music here. It's a simmering cup of coffee in terms of like suspense and drama. At this point, I'm just like rethinking like, is this supposed to be like a mystery movie? Just suspenseful?
I don't know.
Is it supposed to stay like an horror movie? I don't know. Like what was this last conflict? It wasn't even like a conflict at all.
But
this
why?
Movie didn't really have
Why would you take a gorilla?
Drama.
Why would you take a gorilla corpse? Why would you pull out all the monkey meat and leave the peel of the orange?
Yeah, we're still just processing. Like, you know what? Let's just play us leading into this epic moment of the end reveal was just crazy.
It's a costume.
It's the doctor?
The doctor?
Was the ape the whole friggin' time? Wait, what? How? Did he skin the ape? Did he cut the ape skin off and wear it?
Dr. Adrian.
Wait, no, he was with the ape.
Wait.
He was with the ape.
Wait, look.
He knocked the ape out.
She's walking. How'd he get out of the suit? They just ripped it off him? Because the ape, and then the doctor stabbed the ape. He somehow made a costume out of his body and has been wearing him to go around and kill people for their spinal fluid to help this girl. Couldn't you just,
Yeah, but then what is the circus?
Why do you have to be dressed up as an ape to kill people?
And then into the last reveal is just mad.
Look, you owe it to yourself. If you have an hour,
that's why we said to watch
it's
this
on YouTube. If
with
you
all
have
your
an hour,
life, it's on YouTube. It's public domain. We couldn't find any quality copies though when we watched it first. We found
I
one
did.
ripped
I
from
found it. I
VHS.
found a good copy.
We found some good ones later, but we did have one with terrible quality, and there was a point where France's shirt turned a rainbow because it couldn't agree what it would look like and stuff. But there are better copies out there.
We'll put the good copy on the website.
Yeah, it may have influenced our standing on this movie. It could have, maybe, I don't know. But even just barring the visuals, just the story, man, just
you owe it to yourself to watch this and
know.
shake your head and go, "What in the heck?"
At first, just when you process this, it seems like a normal movie plot. When you look at like the Wikipedia plot and you go like, "Oh yeah, right, that sort of makes sense." Yeah, that makes sense, ish. Yeah, the plot works. It works as a normal movie, something you can watch, but it's just when you don't know what's going on when you're watching this for the first time, when you just have to process like how any of this stuff makes sense or just what this movie even really exists for. I still don't know what this movie was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be suspenseful?
No,
Is it supposed to be a suspense?
People like monkeys. I'm telling you, this was the era of monkeys.
There isn't that much horror, but
yeah.
there isn't that much suspense either. So,
look, how many movies? How many movies since probably
it's
1930?
A simmering cup of coffee. It's as dry as a coffee bean.
Think about this: it's a simmering cup of coffee, but you took a sip and you caught some of the dregs, the grounds. Had escaped from the from the
and then it's just
filter.
Simmering on the coaster.
And you're like, bleh.
Simmering on the
coaster.
coaster.
You've got grounds in your mouth. No, you got grounds in your mouth.
Just keeping it heated just slightly. That's what the conflict does for the movie.
And you just
want to
spit it out. You want to spit it out at the last minute. So this movie, thankfully, didn't go beyond the hour. Because if it did, I'd be like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life.
Speaking of wasting 2 hours of our life, we're wrapping up this podcast episode.
Yes.
Next episode, I believe, is The Invisible Man Returns. Claude Rains himself returning.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
They got another actor with a very, very good voice, Vincent Price. His voice would actually be his calling card, just like Claude Rains. His voice was very much his calling card throughout his career. Vincent, it's pretty good. I think that it's like a lot of these sequels, it's diminishing returns as you go. Some of them didn't even. The only connection they had to the Invisible Man movie was the word invisible.
And the word man. And the word man was this.
Or in some instances, it was Invisible Woman. There was a movie. They had the effect. They had the idea. It's tangentially related. So we're going to do it. But
just now that I think about it, the Invisible Man, or at least Claude Rains' Invisible Man, would actually be a good Batman villain. He'd be a good Batman villain, actually. He'd be like a hybrid of, like, I don't know, like Joker, the Penguin, maybe the Riddler. Take your pick on insane-ish villains. Yeah, and the look of Mr. Freeze.
Well, there's a Batman villain named Hush. And he actually has wrappings around his face to hide his identity.
Interesting, but he just imagine like the look of Mr. Freeze, how he looks just like a glasses and just the face and the glasses inside this dome. You know what he is? Sort of like that ish, but like without the personality, freezing powers, or like the dome. Just a villain with a slightly hidden face and green goggles is his calling card. And just with the Joker sort of personality, especially the Britishness of Claude Rains would be good with that. He'd be like a good. I'm thinking of like a comic book here.
Yeah.
Like, he's sort of drawn like the illustrated classics version that has a lot of illustrations that I know of. That's what I think of him as, and those would be.
Well,
really
Batman's main goal is to be unseen, is to be stealthy, right? And what's more unseen than something invisible?
Although he would again have to. Although it can be harder for him because Batman is more armed, and he would want to therefore be more armed. But then again, that would decrease his mobility and invisibility.
You're right.
He would have an orange vest at least at one point. I feel like that just that one thing.
Really?
I feel like could be.
The next episode we're doing is Invisible Man Returns.
We're doing the Invisible Man Returns, and then the Invisible. The third one.
That's Invisible Man's Revenge. Does that come right?
The Revenge. And then next we're doing the Mummy's hand?
There's Mummy's hands, tombs, and
it was a sequel.
curses. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the Mummy sequel. I'll be looking forward to that. And we've also got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the 1941 version. It's
a different version than the one we did. You'll have to compare and contrast the Jekyll and Hyde that we did that had that was the Robert Mamoulian film from back in the 30s. Compare that one with this one. This one has Spencer Tracy, which is a very well-known dramatic and low-key comedy actor. He was more dramatic than comedy, but there was the
but just like a gorilla, I am scratching my head at what the ape was, and I guess it's just gonna have to be hidden in the past for now because we're at the end of the episode, but not truly. It's not a really popular movie in terms of coverage in podcasts,
right?
So it's just
wackadoo, man, wackadoo.
Yes, Scooby-Doo is even better than this.
Yes, no, and
the Flintstones.
No, wait a minute.
That was wackadoo. That used wackadoo as the phrase.
that was no.
Yabba dabba doo.
All right, no. In Scooby-Doo, didn't they find the monster and they always take the mask off and go, oh, it's Old Man Henderson that runs the roller coaster at the.
Yeah, I believe there was Ghost that had that same thing. There was an ape, I believe, in that one too.
That one had Dr. Bernard Adrian in it. Zoinks, yeah.
Zoinks,
well,
man, this movie.
In this case, it really was the doctor who did it, man. He's the one who really did the deed. Okay, Scoob, we need to get in the mystery machine and head out of here. So that's the end of the episode. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed it. Be patient with us as we put these episodes out. Some of them may, come in rapid fire, one after the other. Some, may be, a little bit delayed, but we always get them, the best ones out to you. And no matter what movie we see, whether it's absolutely befuddling and baffling, or if it's really, really great, you're going to get the same treatment of it from us. We're going to watch it and give it its due. So have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. Click here and here for some more excellent content. Hope you'll enjoy it. See you soon.